Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix 319th film from 2020. It's the Turkish comedy Layla Everlasting, or in Turkish, Nine Kere Layla. It's directed by İzel Akay and stars Demet Akbag, Haluk Bilginer, Elsin Sangu, Firat Tanis, and Alakan Yusoy. I am Jesse, I'm your host. Sorry for the pronunciation of some of those names. As always, thanks for coming along on this ride as we go through the Netflix original film back catalogue. As always, as well, if you haven't seen this film and you're interested in checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because we will spoil this film as we go. And there's no better way to do that than starting off with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So my Fast Flicks for this film is, this one's about a man who tries to kill his wife so he can be with a younger woman, while an art collector tries to steal an important document from them. Intriguing. That's probably the most intriguing way to get through this conversation. It is an international film, so it was very hard to find out any information about this film, how it ended up on Netflix. It's inspired by a Turkish stage play called Nine Lives. So that's interesting. I guess if you put that in hand with the title Layla Everlasting in English and Nine Lives, you've got that idea of what you might see in this film a little bit too. This, I guess, was originally meant to be theatrically released by BKM Film on March the 20th, 2020, but the distribution rights were sold to Netflix due to the COVID pandemic, and it hit Netflix on the 4th of December, 2020. What are the translations for this one around the world? So, as I mentioned before about the stage play, in the original Turkish, it's called Nine Times Layla, so meaning she's got 9 lives. In Spanish, it's Layla has 9 lives. Even more explicit in your face. In Portuguese, it's called The Nine Lives of Layla. In French, it's The Nine Lives Like Layla. In Japanese, it's Layla Forever. And in Romanian, it's Layla, the one with 9 lives. So the title across the board here, a little bit spoilery if you didn't really want to know anything going into this film. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? So on Rotten Tomatoes, this sits on only 2 reviews, so no consensus. 1 fresh, 1 rotten. The audience has it at 30%. That's on less than 50 ratings, so not a lot of people. IMDb sits at a 3.7 out of 10 on 8,000 ratings. That is super low. Letterboxd, again, 2 out of 5 on nearly 5,000 ratings. Been logged by a bit over 8,000 people. So nothing too positive here to look at so far. But what about my early thoughts? Am I going to change it up? Unfortunately not. This was excruciatingly bad. It follows every convention you can think of, and doesn't give the audience any credit to be able to understand and interpret what's going on, because it's so explicit and in your face that any good work they're trying to do with the themes, it leads to complete anger as an audience member. So I'm probably going to be pretty ruthless as we talk about this film. Let's talk about the characters. So Adam, spelled Adem. So he is our main character. He is a wealthy archaeologist who's married to Layla. He's fallen out of love with her and is this typical disgusting male character that only cares about how his genitals think. That's him. His wife Layla, she refuses to divorce Adam, even though he's said, I want to break up, I want to split up, I want to separate, because she wants to be this devoted wife and equal to him. But the big reveal is that, and I've said this, spoilers anyway, she's the descendant of, his name's Adam, she's the descendant of Eve, and she's immortal and all that is right in the world, and this is her just experimenting with one of her stages of life. So that's where we're at with her. The sort of person or the third wheel throughout this film is Nergis. So she is Adam and Layla's marriage counselor, who Adam falls in love with, and she's the reason he wants to leave Layla. I found her a really tricky character to get to understand, because she is so superficial. Especially when the message of this film is about the resilience of women. She is so focused on how she looks, making sure that everyone loves her, and she's happy to chase the guy who provides her the most sort of superficial offering, really, because, and I'll talk about Harris in a second, but she's happy to switch and change as she goes. A quote from the film in regards to her was, she feels depressed when she thinks about anything but herself. Come on, even every counseling session that she has with couples, it's about how she thinks the guy in every relationship wants to sleep with her. I found her really frustrating. And then the same with Harris, I guess. Harris is Adam's lawyer, who's Adam's constantly threatening to fire. And, he's trying to be with Negris too, so that idea of men not being great. We have this other character, Madum. He's this collector of historical artifacts. He has these horrendous sidekicks called Farouk and Haran. He's chasing this manuscript that Adam and Layla have because he believes it's his family's right because it's belonged to them in the past. And then we've got these ambos or paramedics called Hizir and Ilas, and they are the most unfunny comic relief I've seen in a long time in a film. So not a lot of positives here from me. The director, Azal Akay, 24 acting credits in Turkey, 7 directing credits. My big question is, as a male, why do you take on this film? This is supposed to be a sort of a feminist film that highlights the wrongs that men do. Let's run with that, and this guy didn't quite hit the mark. So let's talk about and sort of back that up with some scenes that I liked and some ones that I didn't like. So some things that were okay. The only real joke, I guess, that landed, sort of verbal joke, was when Adam asks the paramedics if they're the only ones in Turkey, because they keep coming to every time he tries to kill Layla. I thought this was funny because I didn't want to see them again either. I had enough. I laughed when the grandfather clock fell on Layla. I thought that was humorous. And there's this one line in the film which is good. The line is, murder is easy, making it look like an accident is hard. I thought that was good. But apart from that, everything else is really bad. So every scene that Layla dances around through the house, wherever she is, doing washing, cleaning, eating fruit, throwing wool around, rubbish. Madum, the historical artifact collector, the start we meet him, we see that he's really pedantic. There's this guy at this auction that offers him food, and he sort of pushes the food in this guy's face, pushes him aside. This guy chokes. It leads to the paramedics being called. And then, as I said before, these paramedics are almost the worst thing in the film. All their jokes are horrendous. And especially when they're making like these sexual references to how hot the women are. Just gross. So I've got to say, Adam's purgatory-like dream sequences. This really, really got me. So the first one, it's about him sort of, formulating ideas about killing his wife, Layla. That was bad enough. But then, you'd think one song dream sequence would be enough. Then we get a second. Then we get a third. We get a fourth. We get a fifth. We get a sixth. And then we even get a seventh, which then leads into a montage to make sure we get our 9 kills. This was just so bad. Adam and Nergis, they're having this conversation in the car where he's sort of explaining to her that how he's going to kill his wife. And this was done through 2 bobblehead dogs sitting on the dashboard. Why? That was rubbish. The whole idea of one of the ways that Adam was going to kill his wife was getting this poisonous log, this tree stump, and he bought it for her so she could do her yoga next to it. Come on. Madum, this art collector, the villain, I guess, he just kidnaps and ties up whoever he wants, whenever he wanted. And then he, goes on this big rant about getting drunk and not actually letting the people speak. I don't know. He really frustrated me. The little out-of-place cuts showing the audience how good a woman Layla is. They just felt really uncontextualized when they dropped in the film, because we get shots of her feeding the poor, we get her working in a textiles factory, we get her feeding women in her home, at a protest for women's rights. These are all important things that tell us who she is as a character, but they were just dropped randomly throughout the film without, it's just like, okay, why is she up to that? What's going on? There's a scene where Adam goes to like this exotic animal sort of collector to get an animal to sort of kill his wife, and he gets this spider, and he has this conversation with this CGI spider. Rubbish. Those ambos, the paramedics, they were just randomly dancing at this gas station in one scene, and then we cut to Layla and Nergis dancing and singing in this club or bar with a band together. Like, what did this have to do with anything? I have no idea. And then the final explicit theme dump at the end. I'll talk about this more later, but it was done with this camera rotating dizzyingly around the 2 characters as they spoke. I was starting to feel sick, especially there's this song afterwards as well, and then the post-credits, we get this whole cast recording of a song. The end was just mind-numbing. I really, really struggled. Themes, ideas, what's this film saying? So, the idea of marriage, the struggles of marriage, the idea of midlife crisis, I get all that. The idea that love can make you do crazy things too. And this is that big theme they play on, is that idea of men. They're toxic, they're violent, they do whatever they want to get what they want. Yes, it's a feminist film. That is really good because, they go on about all that men know how to do is kill, whereas women learn to love. It's a man's world. These are all great themes that were just done so poorly. Not necessarily the whole way through, but Well, it was so explicit in your face throughout that you would pick up and understand these themes, because we get that whole idea of the creation story. We've got the characters' names. We've got Adam. We've got Eve. We've got apples. They're in your face the whole time. So you understand this the whole way through. And then the last 5 minutes, I'm probably jumping ahead, but the last couple of minutes really threw me off. The last thing in this film too, trauma too, like the impact that trauma can have on actions and inactions of someone too. All right, this is my rant. What did I take away from this film? So I guess Madhum, at the end of the film, the art guy, we learn that he's Layla's son, and we obviously have Adam being literally called Adam. We've got the apples, we've got the temptation, we've got the shit men throughout. As I said, this message was very explicit and very clear, and I agree with everything it's trying to say. But to then have this super explicit scene at the end where Layla explains everything we'd already worked out in the film, and possibly the title gave this away too, with her jamming it down the audience's throat about her, trying this time around of her life to be a woman who obeys, but it didn't work because being a man is a defect. This is like utter disrespect for filmmaking and for audiences, because to enjoy a film, you need to connect with the message. I connected with this message. However, they were not clever one little bit with this message. There was no insight whatsoever. This end of this film was rubbish. Okay, my rant's done. One question or one pondering I had. What was the reason that Adam was having this auction to fundraise for filmmakers? It was just like they threw this idea that he supports filmmakers in the background. I'm not sure. That really confused me too. All right, I'm ready to wrap this up. My rant's gone on long enough. The songs in this film, there were, what did I say? Probably 9 to 10 songs in this film. They reminded me of why Bollywood films at times can be so hard to digest, because it was a real struggle. It just took you away from the actual film. Yes, I get what the songs were about, Adam and his conscience and what was going on in his life, but the idea and the message, yes, it's a good one that needs to be told, but not in this way. It was done really poorly, and I'm critiquing the filmmaking of this film. Everyone involved, I think, should probably be ashamed with how they handled it and how it took away any ability for an audience to empathize with or care about any characters or any situation in this film. I'm giving this a 1 out of 5. This film I cannot recommend this one little bit, unfortunately. We've got socials, we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, we've got X, formerly known as Twitter. The question that I wanted to ask was, would this, it's based on a stage play, so would this work better on stage? I'm not sure. I don't know. The feeling I have towards this means that I would not even want to sit through a stage version of this unless it's completely different. So that's where we're at. Our little mini run of international films. I feel like we've had quite a few in a row. We have an American film next week. This is a film I've actually seen, but I am excited to give it a rewatch because next week we have the 2020 biographical drama called Mank, which is directed by David Fincher and stars Gary Oldman, Amanda Seyfried, Lily Collins, Arliss Howard, Tom Pelphrey, Charles Dance, and Tom Burke. So big film next week. Jump on board. Hopefully that one's going to get me back into the swing of things from memory. I do enjoy that film. So thanks for hanging around and listening to this one. If you did, I will see you next week.